We've covered quite a lot so far in this course, and I think it's time to jump into this concept of using a pipe and the idea behind a pipe. In JavaScript, we can have pure functions. We pass in a particular piece of data, an item, whatever we want. We could do something with it, and then we can return a new piece of data. So that's essentially what a pipe is. It's almost like a pure function that sits between your data and when it's displayed in the DOM. So this would enable us to, in fact, display our currency, because at the moment we have this 129. If we jump into our donut list component, you can see when we scroll down, we have the prices 119, 129, and 129. Now this isn't $129, this is meant to be 129 cents. However, when a user at the moment comes onto our site, it actually looks like quite an expensive product. So how could we get around this? First thing that we can do, because we know we can use Angular expressions, we could divide that price by 100. We can then hit save and we get 1.19, 1.29. So this solves the problem in terms of number formatting. So that means we can take our data set, and it means that we don't have to parse our initial JSON response. We can just start dealing with these items in cents. And this is actually far easier when it comes to building out a form when we deal in cents, because of the way that decimal places behave in JavaScript is not that great. So by doing this, we can essentially just change it in the view. This is then taking that cents price, dividing it by 100 to then give us what looks like a real dollar price. But now we come to the question, how can we then use a pipe to display the particular currency? Now pipes are great because we can pass in any amount of arguments, and I purely want you to remember one thing. A pipe is just a function. You can pass things into a pipe and you get them back. The way to declare a pipe is by using the pipe symbol. Now this looks quite difficult next to the division sign, so then it's just the straight pipe symbol. What we can then do is pass in the word currency. You can see here that it's trying to autocomplete things because it knows that this pipe exists. So when we then hit enter, we can pass in some arguments. Now, before we do anything, I essentially want you to think about it as a function call. So Angular is going to call this currency function. Now, the arguments for a pipe are in fact set up for you. It might be that we just want to simply leave it as currency and then let the default behavior kick in. In Angular, if we were calling this function, and this is just a demo, this is not how you invoke a pipe, we would do something like this. And we'd say, here's a piece of data, I want to format it as USD. Now, instead of using these parentheses, this is how we declare a pipe. So it's a bit more readable. We just use this colon. If we then want to pass in further items, these are then separated by colons as well. But first, let's save this out and see what we get. So here we have that dollar symbol. So this is great. Now there are a few things that we can do. If we were to specify Great British Pounds, we then get the pound symbol. We can go back to USD. We also have Canadian dollars. Now, if we save this out, you can see that we have CA and then dollar. Angular is taking care of a lot of things for you to make it clearer in which currency we're in fact using. Now, if we didn't want to display the dollar symbol, we could change the second argument over to code. Now this means the currency code, such as USD. We then get USD 129, which means that the default is then the symbol. I want to display the symbol as the default. So this is a quick introduction to pipes. I don't think there's worth more exploring at the moment, but there is a way that we can create our own pipes, and we'll come onto this in the more advanced course because we don't need it in this course. We don't need to worry about it just yet. But essentially, a pipe takes a piece of data. We then, in this example, tell it how to format it, and we've looked at how to pass in particular arguments. By default, the Angular currency pipe just so happens to be set up with United States dollars and also the symbol. So we can just simply leave it nice and simple with just pipe and then currency. But we have looked at how to pass in different arguments into our pipe. So when we save, our user then knows the currency, and they also have the price been nicely formatted from cents down into dollars. So that's the idea behind a pipe. And the great thing about pipes is that they are essentially pure functions. A pure function can also invoke or take a pure function. So we could pass in another pipe afterwards. We could say JSON. However, this isn't really going to do much. It's going to put our quotes because it's now converted it over to a JSON string. But this is how we would essentially chain our pipes. And chain is the key word here and what it means to then pass one pipe after the other. So that's a brief overview of an Angular pipe. There are many pipes built in, and depending on your use case, I would highly recommend having a look at the Angular documentation as to which pipes you need. There are pipes for dates, which we'll come on to as we continue, pipes for currencies, and lots of different formatting. With this in mind, we've covered how to parse the data before it gets rendered out for our user in the DOM using our raw data set and then bind it to the DOM, and then change that output before the user sees it.